Starting my small business changed my life. And I know previously I talked about how I'm pivoting, recloseted, and I don't want it to come across as I regret starting a business because that is absolutely not the case. And I wanted to also talk about what recloseted has done for me and what starting a small business has done for my life so that it can inspire you to do something too. Like if you've always thought about starting a side hustle or starting a business or doing the thing, then I want to inspire you to do that in this video and just share how it's had such a profound impact on my life. From my career pivot video, I don't think it came across this way, but I just wanted to emphasize that I absolutely do not regret starting Recloseted. It is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life because it allowed me to realize that entrepreneurship is definitely for me, but also beyond that, I learned and grew so much in the process. The first thing that it did was really give me so much purpose because like I talked about in my career pivot video, which if you haven't watched, I will link it down below, but essentially I was feeling so lost in my career. I was clocking in on a 9-to-5 job and I, yes, was learning a lot and yes, loved my team, but I also felt like I had a deeper sense of purpose and a deeper why. Recloseted gave me that. There was an industry that I discovered that I had a great passion to change and improve, and that was the sustainable fashion space. And so I'm just forever grateful for the fire that lit within me to start this business and to just help that industry. The second way that starting a business and starting Recloseted changed my life was that I learned and grew so much. And I know I talk a lot about it, but I wanted to just put it into layman's terms and just state why I just learned and grew so much. So when you go to business school and when you work for someone else, I think a lot of the times you're following a path. Someone's telling you, go to these classes, pass these exams, write these papers, and you'll get a diploma. Or when you start a job, your boss tells you, hey, finish these projects, do these tasks. If you do a good job, you'll have a good performance review, you'll get your bonus, all this stuff. But when you're an entrepreneur, the person that tells you that is you. And so there's just a next level of growth because the buck stops with you. And while some people love that, some people may not do well with that. The buck stops with you. And so you need to make good strategic sound decisions and you need to pivot and everything just lies on you. So there's an immense amount of pressure. And it's sometimes self-inflicted and also inflicted by other people, but there is that level of pressure, right? You can't just turn off your brain and pass the buck to someone else. Like it has to be you that makes decisions, and sometimes it's difficult decisions. In that type of environment, you just learn and you grow so much. I also am someone that learns a lot by doing things. So yes, I learned a lot of concepts in business school, but when I started applying them in my day-to-day corporate job, I really reinforced some of those learnings. And I also made my own learnings and takeaways and amendments. And then it was just next level when I started a business. You learn so much about product market fit and really making sure that the product that you're selling adds value. I talk about this with my clients all the time. So if they're watching this, they're likely sick of hearing this. But you need to make sure there's a genuine need for what you're making. And that is at the end of the day the most important thing. If you don't have a good product, you don't have a business because people won't pay for it. And if you have a shitty product, it makes the marketing, it makes the sales, it makes everything else so much more difficult. And there's so much stuff out there already. So if you're putting out something that someone else is already doing, it's just not going to work. So you really need to make sure you're standing out. And so product market fit is something that I really learned. I also learned, of course, like how to build a brand from scratch, how to build a community. In today's marketing, community is so important. You can't just throw ad dollars anymore. Ad spend has gone through the roof. The tracking, there's this whole thing. When it comes to marketing strategy, like community first approach, a values first approach, that's really the way to go. And so learned so much about that. I also learned so much about sales. I was always someone that kind of shied away from sales, and sales was always kind of stressful to me. But I realized that if I don't sell, I don't eat. So it's really important to figure out sales. And I figured out a way where I am genuinely understanding that I'm adding value to someone else. So it's not selling, it's actually helping people and supporting people. And that ties back to my first point that you actually need to make a really good product that has product market fit. So I learned a lot of sales skills and just team skills as well, right? Like I hired contractors, I had team members, and just learning how to manage people, learning how to get results. And at the same time, too, there's this layer of it has to work out because if you're a manager in a corporation, their salary doesn't come out of your bank account. Their salary comes out of the company's bank account, right? But in this case, I was managing contracts and team members. Their salary was quite literally coming out of my bank account. And a lot of the times I would not pay myself, so I would pay them. It's just a lot of pressure. And so I think learning how to lead in that type of environment, leading with inspiration, motivating, getting people on the same page, learning that at the end of the day, this is still your business. So while your team members will care, no one's going to care as much as you do. Realizing all these things and dealing with this and making difficult decisions too, of like letting go team members when it wasn't a fit or they weren't performing. And so learned so much there. And then, of course, the finances piece. I learned so much in business school around accounting, financial statements, all this stuff. But to be honest, those classes I found so dry because it's just a lot of theory and you're trying to memorize things. But then running your business, you're like looking at your balance sheet, you're looking at your cash and bank, you're looking at your P&L, and it brings those concepts to life. It just makes it more fun, I guess, and more not more fun, but it just makes it make more sense, right? So yeah, I just learned so much, and that's just the tip of the iceberg. Really learned also how to present myself. I've spoken at international conferences. I've built myself as a thought leader in this space. I've had a podcast for 5+ years. And so I did so much and I grew so much. And if I look back at the Selena that first started Recloseted and the Selena now that's pivoting Recloseted, it's a night and day difference. And I have so much more trust in myself because I have shown to myself that I can build something from scratch and I can bootstrap it and I can be resourceful and I can do all these things and make it work. And there's just such an immense level of trust I have with myself. People often say that 9-to-5 jobs are more stable, but you could get laid off, you could get fired. And actually what career stability is your skills. Like no one can take your skills away from you. No one can take your brain away from you. And so I now have these marketing skills. I now have these product validation skills. And I have these sales skills. So even with that alone, I know that I'll never be hungry again because I have these skills and I can just go put in the work and I can make it happen for myself. So I think the amount of trust and confidence you build in yourself and just like what you learn is insane. It's literally like, yes, I went to business school, but building a business was like a crash course MBA, in my opinion. So yeah, I learned so much from doing Recloseted. The third thing my small business did that I am forever grateful for is that it taught me how to work to live, not live to work. Early stages of my career, I was definitely living to work. I was putting in really long hours at the office and then I would come back and side hustle. I will do a video kind of talking about my side hustle journey, but basically I would go to work from 9 to 5 or 6, and then I would come home, eat dinner, maybe go to the gym, and then I would work on Recloseted from 8 all the way up to midnight or 1 a.m. sometimes. And then it would just be like that every single day. And I would work on the weekends too. So I was literally living to work. But I didn't mind because I was so passionate about what I was doing at Recloseted and I was learning so much. And there's also seasons in your life. The first few years of building your business, you are building, if it's your first business, there is a lot to be learned and it's going to take time. But after that, once it's a little bit more stable, I do think you can pivot into the work to live category. And that's definitely the stage that I was at. And I've now have systems and processes and things to make me more efficient and more productive. I'm just really grateful that I've been able to make this shift with Recloseted. And Recloseted has also allowed me to live abroad with my partner. So we're originally Canadian, but we're living in London right now. We're living our best Euro lifestyle. We've been traveling, exploring Europe, and just living our best life. And I would not be able to do that if I had a traditional corporate job. Just forever grateful for that. Living abroad has also taught me that in Europe, they really do live to work. They don't work to live like we do in Canada and the US. It's just a different way of life. People here are still productive. They still get stuff done. I think the first month I got here, it was so jarring for me because we're in London, and London out of Europe is probably like the most hardworking city. As an example, I went on a client sourcing trip to Barcelona. We were trying to meet with these businesses and it was towards the beginning of summer, and then they were telling us, hey, we're going to be closed for 2-3 hours in the afternoon, siesta time. Basically, siesta is in Spain where it's too hot, so everyone just goes home and takes a nap, which I think is fabulous. And then in France, one of our friends is French. He grew up right outside of Paris, but he was telling us that people take 2-hour lunches. They will start at 8 or 9, and then they kind of just go home a little bit later, but they take a 2-hour lunch, and there's usually wine involved, and it's just great. It's just such a different way of living. Seeing that has really promoted a lot more work-life integration. I don't necessarily believe in balance because I think that you can have it all, just not all at the same time. Like you can be fit, you can have great relationships, you can have a thriving, successful career in business, but there's seasons. There's seasons where you're focusing more on your career. There's seasons where you're focusing more on your fitness. There's seasons where you're leaning in a little bit more on traveling and then your loved ones. There's just seasons, but I do think in order to have it all, it does need to be integrated a little bit. Anyways, I can talk more about that if you're interested, but the third thing my small business has really taught me is not living to work, but working to live. Another thing that I'm really grateful for starting a small business is just the people that I have in my life now and the connections that I've made along the way. I talked about it in my last 30th birthday video, but I am just so deeply appreciative and grateful of everyone I have in my life. Two of my closest friends now, they started businesses when I started businesses, so we came up through this together. We've been through everything together, like the trenches, the celebrations, the highest highs, the lowest lows, and I think throughout it, it's so important if you're starting a business to have a really strong support network. It's so helpful to have people that are also entrepreneurs because then they get what you're going through. I'm forever grateful for my besties, Tiff and Vanessa, that I have gained along the way. Beyond that too, I think starting a business, some people will just not get it. And I think that it's interesting when you first start out, there's a wave of people that are supportive. And then there's a wave of people that kind of talk behind your back, like the first wave. And you're able to filter through that. But then interestingly, the second wave is once you get more growth and you get some success, there's some people then that project and I don't know, maybe they're envious or they're jealous. It's a lot of the time projection, and I try not to take it personally because it doesn't have anything to do with me. It's stuff they have going on. But a lot of the times people want to get out of the situation they're in, but they don't know how to start or they don't have the courage to start. And then if they see someone else living their dream life, they can feel some type of way, right? And so there's projection there. Those two stages, the starting stage and then the growth stage, and then at all times you kind of fall out of touch with people. But I think it's such a good pruning exercise because also, I don't have that much time and I don't have that much energy. And for the friendships and the connections I have, I want to be the best friend and the best support system I can be. Yeah, just grateful for the tight, close-knit circle I have now. And I know every single person will be there for me. I know every single person is genuinely cheering me on. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. Beyond that, too, I've met so many cool people all over the world. All of my clients are now all my friends as well. That's an automatic requirement when you work with me. We become besties. And then also so many people I've met on social media, building those social relationships online. I think it's such a beautiful thing to actually have connections and meet people and talk to people. And a lot of the times they're building their own businesses too. And so it's just so cool to see. I'm so grateful for the genuine connections that I've been able to make with IRL entrepreneurs that are now my besties, but also online people too. And the pruning exercise, because I think that people's true colors show. And it is such a good way to gauge who you want to have in your life and who you don't, which I think is a beautiful thing. Not shade to anyone, but it's really just, I know a lot of the times people have stuff going on. And so I give them a lot of empathy. I give them a lot of compassion. And I'm just so grateful for the people that I do have in my life. And I want to make sure that I am as good of a friend as I can be. These reasons are just literally the tip of the iceberg. I just really didn't want my career pivot video to come across as like, oh, I regret starting Recloseted, or I should have never started a business or anything like that, because it's absolutely the best decision I've ever made. And it's been the wildest 6 years of my life. And it's also been the best 6 years of my life. And I hope that all these things that I've gained out of it inspires you to also take that leap and do your thing. Looking back now, there's definitely things I would do differently if I was starting Recloseted again. So if you want me to talk about that, I'm happy to talk about that in my next video, because I now am wiser and I have learnings, I have failures to reflect upon. So definitely would do things a little bit differently maybe now if I was starting a business in like 2024 or 2025. But other than that, like, I absolutely do not regret it. It's hands down best decision of my life. And I just hope that it encourages you and inspires you and sparks a fire under you to do your own thing, because I really do believe that everyone has an idea or something in them. And if you want resources and help on how to take that idea and actually do it, then I'm the girl for you, because like I mentioned in my career pivot video, I want to be the go-to resource for building and launching and scaling sustainable businesses that are great for the planet, great for the founder's lifestyle, and great for the founder's bank account. So that is so important when we talk about sustainability. Like, it has to work for your life, it has to work financially for you, and it has to be mindful of the planet, and you actually need to have a great product that adds value and all this stuff. So if that's something you're interested in, stick around. I'm going to be doing way more YouTube videos. I'm also at Selena J. Ho on Instagram and Selena Ho _ on TikTok. Click the links down below to check everything out. And I'm just so genuinely excited to be supporting you on your potential entrepreneurship journey. And I look forward to seeing you in the next video.